What's up? All right. I've been loving this let me get my hotspots. Actually, not. Let's try. I did a reading successfully with my Wi-Fi yesterday. Been having big problems. Let's connect to the Wi-Fi and see. It only dropped once, which is fine. It's going through some drama, let's just say. But I don't know if you follow my stories or anything, but I've had big time problems. And I tried to do one reading like a week ago with my Wi-Fi, and instead of using the hotspot on my phone, and it cut off probably like 10-ish, lost count times, where like I'm like mid-flow, mid-sentence, and then like Zoom has to reconnect, and it's just the ultimate. I need to shave my beard. I think it's kind of past the point of looking good. I nearly just got up and like paused this and trimmed it, which would have taken like literally, I would have just trimmed this part. But let's not do that. So okay. Anyways, let me just double check sound, because you never know. Test, test, test. Okay. 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 Cool. So, let's go ahead and Gendi, the agenda, the agenda. So let's dive into this chart. So what do we have here? We have a Libra moon with the south node in the same sign as the moon. Now that just by itself is extremely interesting to me. Um, because it means that the tendency that one has that might not be in their best interest, because as you know, south node is it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing if it's used correct, if it's used to help achieve the north node. Um, People villainize the south node too much, in my opinion. From what I've seen, I don't really look at that much astrology shit, to be honest. Like I taught myself everything. I mean, obviously when I taught myself, it was based on, you know, like famous astrologers and their books and stuff, and then just kind of taking what I felt was right and develop my own style and time. But um, this is something I've seen quite a bit. My readings are really, really based on the North Node. I would say, like, I mean, it plays a huge role in most of them, or in everyone, but you know, they're very centered around that. Um, so, hmm. So when you have the North Node, in that same sign, it's difficult because the moon is obviously the instinct, right? So when the instinct is Libra, so Libra moon, very relationship oriented. I see you with your Pisces Juno on the descendant. Um, so right away, and then your sun is Gemini, Chiron on it, so you're meant to be a healer on the midheaven with Vesta. Wow, that's an interesting mix. Very hardworking person who could definitely make a difference in people's lives. Um, let's see here. So yeah, I mean, and then you combine that with the Mars in Taurus in the ninth, though. And then in terms of important aspects. We got moon. I feel like look at it actually because sometimes it lies to me. Opposite Jupiter. Nope. Nope. It's kind of like, oh, yeah. Moon opposite Black Moon Lilith. That's a big one. I mean, not big one, but it's definitely something. Um, and Sun is Saturn 16, opposite Saturn, of course, and opposite Uranus. And then Pisces and Virgo, Sun square ascendant, slash descendant. Okay, in conjunct Chiron. And then Mercury is also opposite Neptune. Venus is unaspected. No, it is not. Is it? 25 fixed. Yeah, it's interesting. All right. And did I see the Mars? Was I looking at Mars? Mars is opposite Neptune. Cardinal and square the nodes. Ooh la la. And node squares. So you asked about karma. Well, you're gonna need karma. Mercury and Mars and Neptune. 3 skip steps. Juicy. Juicy. So by the way, I kind of go back and forth in terms of like being on camera. Sometimes I show my face the whole reading. Sometimes I prefer to just show the chart. And I just like have my stones here and I sit back and I get into a very deep meditative state. So I feel like sometimes, I don't know, I've had readings before where I listen to them back and I'm just like, yo, I sound like I'm on like heroin. Like, isn't like talking like this and just like talking really slowly. I'm like, no, that's like when I'm in a trance. But like, I don't know. Now I'm like kind of, I'm not self-conscious about it, but like, I don't know. I don't want to sound like I'm on heroin when I'm doing an astrology reading. You can imagine why. Um, like a little drowsy or something. But yeah. Anyways, so back to what I was kind of getting into. Moon. So the moon with the south node is very challenging because the north node is in Aries. So you think first thought is, okay, what is supporting Aries? Fire, the first sign, 8th house Aries too. So it's like very Martian energy, right? You're trying to move away from Venus towards Mars, which is really moving away from kind of that that divine. I mean, it's not about like not having that divine feminine energy, but it's like it's more about, moving away from the need for everything to just be all, you know lovely all the time, and being okay to kind of have things get a little chippy, right? um so that's really how I see people who have their north nodes in that sign, is that they're really meant to spark things up a little bit. They're meant to really learn about independence and sovereignty. And there's definitely past lives that you have held yourself back through your relationships. Um, Not just romantic, but relationships in general. When I think of the low vibe of Libra, it is the inability to say no, difficulty with boundaries, um, and overall just kind of lacking that core self. Which, speaking of core self, Moon in the second house. So Moon in the second house is someone who, that's the house of Taurus, or closely linked to Taurus, which is a sign of stability, and a sign related to, or the second house at least, is very, very, related to, I think of it as like the building blocks that make us us. Like self-esteem would be a word I put with it. Um, but really just like, yeah, the foundational pieces that really define us, and those are of the utmost importance. So, that's huge. So basically with the moon there is, I don't want to like down, like I do like Libra moon. Like I Libra sun's the one that I've had issues with in the past. But I feel like in terms of moon sign, it doesn't work. It's not like a bad moon sign or anything. I mean, but there is pitfalls to every moon sign. So with Libra, it's around, it makes someone very, very like, you know, very Venusian, very, 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 very good socially, very able to find beauty in themselves and see the beauty in situations and in other people, very relationship oriented. Um, which are good things. Libra moons, they're the diplomats, they're the people that care, that want things to be fair, and um they care about making other people feel comfortable, feel a sense of comfort, right? Um, so in the second house, you're really trying to find that within yourself, to find like that strict moral code, value system, whatever you want to call it, that you can subscribe to. And then as a Libra moon, which like I said, can be so indecisive, and want to please everyone and make this person happy and make this person happy. And then sometimes they just like go crazy thinking about like, how the fuck can I make all these people happy and satisfy everyone? It's to have this like it's almost like a testament, or like a document of like, this is the decision, like I base my decisions based off of these values, these core principles, right? Okay, yeah. Like so that's really important to have those down, right? Now, when I see the South Node in the same sign as the moon, which I've seen quite a bit lately, to be honest, um, I always think of how challenging that is, because like I was saying earlier, the moon is the instinct. It's how we live. It's how we live within ourselves, right? It's like, I think of it as like our inner environment. It's our it's the most important part of our chart, right? And my opinion, more than the sun, because the sun is like your mission, your purpose, your identity, um, your identity. Yeah, it's identity. But your moon is like what you can't live without. It's like a need compared to like a goal. Um, Maybe not even a goal, but like it's like a need that's more unconscious and harder to see compared to something that's way more obvious and easy to see, the sun, you know like it's way easier to see during the day than it is at night, you know but then that's where the intuition comes in, because some people like myself feel like they see better during night than during the day. Um so yeah, really, really having that like that assemblement is difficult. It can be difficult, right? Because you know you might have, especially like starting life, like I don't know if you saw my article I wrote a few weeks ago about being stuck in your south node, right? And I think like one of the hardest, like I think someone who has this configuration has the highest chance of being stuck in their south node, because the instinct is to be doing that. So it's like, how can you get out of it? Well, for one, you can think of what's the highest, you do the thing I just told you about, the value system, and really, really like reinforcing boundaries and creating rules around, around that, how those are going to function in your life with different people. And yeah, it's just a daily practice, really. Let's see. And aside from that, Libra is, yeah, it's a diplomat, it's the peacemaker, and it's also the artist. So if one can find like a creative channel, um, it can be a great benefit. Okay, well, we just had our first freeze. How many? First freeze, 15 minutes in. Great. Great, great, great. I hope I don't have to switch to my other Wi-Fi. Anyways, yeah, so basically, as I was saying, return to meeting, share screen. So, so I don't want to like stay on that for too long, and come back to it. But yeah, I mean, just because the instincts are linked to the South Node, it can be very easy to get stuck in it. I mean, I have my ascendant in the same sign as my South Node, Leo. So, but it's a little bit easier for me to see, because the ascendant, it's the outer shell of the egg, that is the shell being your ascendant, the white being your sun, the yellow being your yoke. So and then your Virgo rising too. So Mercury rules the chart from 10 degrees Cancer conjunct Mars. Okay. Interesting. So then you think, okay, well, what is, the relationship between Gemini and Libra? Well, guess what? It's a nice, beautiful trine between Sun and Moon. Does it get better than that? I don't know. Is it one of the best aspects in astrology? Surely. And basically, it makes it so your yeah, your sun and your moon, your feminine, your masculine side are aligned. That there's a common goal. There's not like a misalignment between the two. Air, intelligence, intellectual ability, communication, all these things are highlighted, right? And then having double Mercury in your big three is a huge indicator of intelligence, right? And Pluto in the third house is another huge indicator of intelligence. Definitely a very, very strong communicator, especially with your Mercury conjunct Mars, right? That's in Cancer still, it doesn't matter what science. And like, I just had a client that had something similar, and she was like saying, she's very assertive, right? I'm gonna run downstairs really quick. I'm not sure if it will pick up my sound. Just gonna grab something. But anyways, I'm just gonna not talk for a few seconds. Okay. Now you should be able to hear me. Anyways, yeah, I had a client with a similar placement, and She was very, very assertive. And it was all in Cancer. It was in I've seen it a lot, you know. Mars conjunct Mercury is definitely creating someone who you know, is able to be assertive and is able to get their point across. Um and a lot of times in Mars, I mean in Cancer, there can be this kind of like people get twisted about Cancer. Cancer can sometimes be more Scorpio. Like when I say more Scorpio, you know what I mean. Like you know how like kind of the stereotype of a Scorpio. Like Cancer can be like that more than Scorpio can sometimes, especially when you have the Mars there conjunct Mercury. Um, because you know this certain dysfunction is typically going to be there, especially as a Gemini Sun. You know. Um, so what's special about your chart though is that your Sun's conjunct Chiron. So that's like a big indicator. You know, and that makes it so your moon trines Chiron, right? So Chiron is in a nice aspect to both sun and moon. So, you know, regardless of whether the work you do is healing or is related to healing people in any kind of way, like whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, or if you're like, you know, a lawyer or something, or a corporate worker or whatever, like regardless, or just a mother, you know, or just whatever, you have a healing effect on the people around you naturally. And I'm sure it goes appreciated whether it's said or not. But it's definitely something that can be leveraged into profession. So let's see here. Mm. So then you add, yeah, so the Gemini Sun in the 10th is going to make someone who's very career oriented, especially conjunct Vesta, which is like a asteroid that it's like a more fun version of Saturn, which is Saturn's all about hard work, but there's more of like a disciplinary, like kind of restricting element to it. Vesta is definitely about work, but it's more fun. I don't know how else to say it. It's less you know, it's less Saturny. It's like yeah. So Vesta conjunct Sun people are definitely way more you know, like they're passionate about what they do, and that you know there's a ton of meaning to it. And when you have it there with the midheaven, which is in Gemini also, you know, those four together combine someone who can be very healing in what they do and have a very healing effect, and you know, be a healer professionally, or just having a healing effect on or you know on the people around them. But also, you know, Chiron, wherever it is, it's like that's where you have to get over some pain, right? So Chiron in the 10th, there could be some pain around, you know, whether it's this life or this life is mimicking another life. You know, there could be pain around allowing yourself to really put yourself out there publicly. But with your sun there in Gemini, there's a huge, you know, karmic push for you to do that, especially as a North Node in Aries, the sign of, you know, I was gonna say dominance, but of the maverick, you know, of the action oriented person, of the entrepreneur, right? So I was getting to this with your midheaven in Gemini. That's like big time potential for career changes, you know. I've seen it all over. So many of my actually a lot of my like a good amount of the people that um have been my astrology students, like I do like, you know, one-on-one um astrology classes for people at any levels, right? um and a lot of these people are, you know, have that same midheaven Gemini. So I find that interesting. um So then, that makes your rising in Virgo be interesting addition to all this picture. All right, so it went out again. I think I'm gonna switch to my hotspot. I need to like write on the notebook, like it's like maybe I'll write for one third. I'll be like taking computer if nothing improves. If what computer if Wi-Fi doesn't. Okay. I don't know what it could be. Be some setting, who knows? It's not a big a deal. Okay, let's make that switch right now. Okay, where are we? I'm allowed to switch Wi-Fi's in the middle. Okay, connected. So, one quick second. So, okay, so it looks like it's working. Nothing bad happened. Okay, cool. So I just have to keep this open like this, close the computer. Word. Okay. So anyways, as I was saying, your Virgo rising adds to the picture because Virgo risings are very astute, very observant. I don't need to tell you all the stuff you already know about Virgo rising. It's ruled by Mercury, so a lot of times, Gemini rising especially, but also Virgo risings will keep like a youthful look throughout their life. So that's good. And yeah, it just you add that to being a Gemini and having all that Gemini energy with the moon in Libra, and you definitely have someone who can overthink, a little bit too intellectual. So, there could definitely be the need to tap into the more spiritual parts of oneself, the kind of like not worrying about the small things is a big time lesson. Because, definitely, I mean, yeah, Moon in Libra is not going to be as difficult as Moon in Gemini for that. But, when you have Venus unaspected, besides a conjunction with Mercury, right? Wait, that's Mars. What are you talking about, dude? Venus unaspected, right? We're clear on that. It's in Taurus. There's no planets in unhard aspected. But really unaspected. There's nothing. I mean, there's a sextile Black Moon Lilith that doesn't count. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. There's in terms of oppositions, there's nothing there. Actually, there is one aspect to Venus. There is one aspect, and it is the exact quincunx. I only do quincunxes if they're exact to Uranus. Wow. Which did even show me that on the aspect grid? No. How crazy. So that's interesting. Okay, I will keep that one in the bank. So Venus is aspected, but there's none of like the main aspects. Yeah, 5-degree orb, like moon, quincunx, Venus. Like I'm not gonna give that. But anyways, I definitely see like how the chart's asking you to look at kind of how you value yourself and how the way that you value yourself reflects your relationship patterns, right? So it's really about like self empowerment and learning to become assertive and be your own boss, not just in work but in life in general, right? Um, when one is indecisive, that reflects sometimes a lack of self-esteem, a lack of like third chakra, like I can fucking do it, which is what Aries energy is all about. But can also reflect just it can reflect a lot of things. It can reflect a lack of self-esteem, but it can also reflect a lack of overall awareness of where other people are at, right? And when you have Virgo as your ascendant, sometimes you can tend to look at other people, right? There can be that perfectionist attitude ingrained, right? Even just Virgo as the ascendant. Um, and with Libra, Libra moon can always be trying to please everyone. So you got to get over that, right? And that's what the astrology is really, really asking you. But there's a lot more. There's a lot more. Okay, so yeah, so obviously like the houses are the second and 10th, so it's like or the second and eighth, and then first and seventh for the nodal story. So that's about like so first of all for relationships, that's about you know um it's about really becoming, like I was saying, not like moving away from the extreme of codependency, but also moving away from the extreme of like Aries, like I'm only doing it my way, that's it, where the menus go. Okay. Sorry, I had to pause for a second. So yeah, basically, yeah. So when I see sometimes I like to pause and just like stare at the chart. Um, just stare, right? And when there is this much mercurial energy, I always tell the person to remember that no matter how high up spiritually they are, that there's this constant battle between the cognitive and the kind of heart-centered mindfulness metaphysical, right? The intuition and the mind, because the mind is a force for you, right? So it's like, how can you utilize that to be an asset? Because the Virgo can be very, very like in this reality, but it also makes you super observant, super, super observant, but it can also make one very, very critical of themselves. So you mentioned to me that you're really into astrology. Um, I forget what you said, but it was something along the line. Like it made me kind of wonder, like maybe you are like really, really good and ready for doing readings. If that's something you'd be interested in, or maybe like a lot closer to that point than you think, right? Because we all have our own styles, and we gotta start somewhere. But yeah, so that's just something to keep in mind. But with the okay, so moving on with other aspects of the chart. So back to kind of what I was saying with like the nodes, right? There's a huge need with eighth house north node to dive into what makes you feel maybe more uncomfortable, right? The occult, esoteric, death, rebirth, transformation, anything underground, anything taboo, all that stuff, right? And to do it in a very fiery way, right? Now, when you have a chart, so this is like totally an indicator of an advanced soul. Maybe I'll write an article about this, but it would be kind of advanced, I guess, a little bit and kind of abstract and very specific. But like when I see someone whose north node isn't supported by any energies, like any personal planet energies, for example, like there's no fire in your chart, personal, like for personal planets. I mean, you have Jupiter there, which helps a lot. So that kind of does give you some help, but like because Jupiter's kind of like a middle planet. But everything else is in air, water, and earth, you know? So in that case, there's a need to really find that fire, to find that fire. So it can be through working out, through, forcing yourself to go on adventures and just like dig deep, basically, And Jupiter in Aries though is in the eighth house. I think of it like as it's like a lantern, right? The areas of life, it's like the gates to the unknown are open for you, and it's dark for everyone. It's like walking into a cemetery of sorts. I know it sounds kind of bleak, but like having a lantern or like walking into like this cave of like of like occult explorations and endless potentials and being able to actually see, right? And to have this like real, it's also really good for inheritance and other people's resources. A lot of eighth house Jupiter people I know either, receive or are going to receive or have, like basically like some form of inheritance, or they end up marrying someone, not in a gold digger type way, but they end up like marrying someone that has, that can provide them with that material success, or like the security is a better word. But then the other thing is that the moon, the second house, will make it so income will be up and down, right? Because the moon fluctuates. So with a Mercury ruled chart, there can be worries about that. But when you align yourself with higher spiritual values, like I've been telling you about, that's when, and your south node's there, so it won't necessarily come that difficult. Like it might not be that difficult. Um, that's when things really open up and a lot of stability comes, right? When you're like favoring the metaphysical over the physical. So yeah, Jupiter in the eighth, yeah, lots of like ability to really expand yourself through these types of studies, whether it's psychology, um, you know, anything esoteric. You really learn a lot about yourself in the world. And Jupiter in Aries is like very freedom loving, right? Jupiter makes everything bigger. So it actually really helps your North Node in Aries and gives you this kind of this it does give you that fire, right? This it makes someone like a very like spontaneous seeker of truth. Like I'm gonna get this reading. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. So even though you lack fire, and the Virgo and the Libra can kind of make one a little bit like, should I do it? Like mind versus like intuition, right? That's kind of the battle. Now the moon opposes Jupiter, right? So, moon opposite Jupiter, I always look at that as any Jupiter hard aspects. I don't really think of them as being that bad. I mean, it can be like it just depends on the chart, right? The rest of the chart, but it can be like self-indulgent. Someone who um sometimes like can have difficulty finding like the motivation to like leave the nest, especially with like all those the Taurus and the Cancer placements. Um, and it can make someone it can lead to complacency at times, right? But it can also be, yeah, someone who like sometimes can like lack faith in themselves and and just like go over the top with stuff. So there's a need for moderation, but like a lot of the other parts of your chart really support that. So I just want to say that. Now, the Jupiter is also at 22 degrees, so that's, definitely gonna speak to, conflicts around it's a 22 degrees is gonna it will make it more difficult to kind of break free from that and break and kind of allow yourself to kind of go into that eighth house death, rebirth, transformation. So there's a big need to kind of like find that fire within, find that passion, and find those things you really, really care about, and just go, and just really, really, um, you know, expand, I guess you could say, in that fiery manner. So should I talk about this next? Let's keep my phone open. Realize that the hotspot tends to go out when the phone's not, the screen's not on. Okay, so basically, mhm, 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 mhm. So more with the, you want to go to karmic, or well, I guess we could talk about Pluto a little bit in the third. And Pluto in the third is someone karmically who really in this lifetime they need to go get the information for themselves, right? They can't just like blindly trust. Um, yeah, okay. So it was Mars, Mercury, and Neptune, the squares. Okay. So you can't just like blindly trust. You really, and it makes someone who can be like a very, 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 and you have Pallas there too. So, really like a deep probing mind, who a powerful communicator, someone who just really wants to go deep. And there can also be like power struggles with siblings. Um, but someone who wants to take things deeper, and in terms of learning, they're always trying to kind of like to like they can be very obsessive when they get into certain subjects, right? So yeah. And then with Palace there, that's like the third eye. That's just a big indicator of intuitive intelligence. And just this eagerness to acquire wisdom and knowledge, good communication skills, and really good for like having like very unique ideas. And it's in Scorpio, so that's that probing mind, that third eye, right? Really that that mind that wants to get to the bottom of things. And with Mercury and Mars together, there is a deep push for that, right? Um, so yeah, it's like the person who's made to be a psychologist, like not like just as a career, just in general, right? So let's get the chart back showing where'd it go. Okay, so yeah, that's important to add to kind of this whole story. And I think the Virgo rising helps that. But yeah, like I said, there's a need to not like be like super self-critical, and to not like push that onto other people, to project that onto other people. Now, with 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 okay, so Saturn is pretty close to the IC, and Mercury's in the same fourth house. So I'm like, what direction do I want to go? Well, we can talk about the skip steps. So skip steps in astrology is squares to the nodes, right? So the closest one, let's see by degrees, which one's the closest. So you got the ones in Cancer that are like 2 degrees away, and then you've got Neptune, which is 1 degree away. So Neptune would be the closest one. And that one is really interesting because basically there's unresolved material around meaning. you know, in dreams and ideals, you know, things represented by Neptune. And in past lives, there could have been like a loss of meaning, right? Especially with like South Node and Libra. Like imagine, I get tons of clients with that, and I always imagine them being like in relationships that hold them back from that true process of spiritual growth and spiritual individual and creative growth and spiritual and just like individualization in general, right? Um, so there can be like, yeah, this like real despair and loss of life force. So you know, it can kind of, I think of it as like, yeah, unresolved material around like dreams, suppressed, like kind of people who maybe like suppress like their truest dreams, right? And I think that with the Libra, that could have come from always wanting to make other people happy and not really going with yourself. So it's really important for you to have relationships, to be careful of who you surround yourself with, and to be around people who also have this deep imagination, right? And this goes actually perfectly with the 11th house, because you have your Mercury and Mars there, 11th house in Cancer. You want your friends to be, you know, like your friends are like your family, right? Um, but yeah, so like really like I think this skip step is like very karmic and can lead to like a spiritual crisis early in life, but then that transformation, which goes to your North Node 8th house. Um, and there can be like this kind of like meaninglessness that the person goes through that really, really hurts them, that can lead to like addictions, which, you know, you have your Mars opposite Neptune. So that's like, you know, one of those aspects that speaks to that, right? That potential for escapism. So then we talk about the Mercury skip step, and that's around the mind, right? Um, the mental life, something unresolved there, right? It could be in, like I said, it could be overly rigid thinking, like Virgo, um, or just lacking like discrimination, you know, which the third house Pluto is really trying to get you to really, really dig deep and to find the information and the wisdom on your own. Is not just to take things at face value. So definitely like past life conditioning has kind of plagued you. Um, and like play your role, you know, play your role, like be the wife, be the mother, whatever, right? So also I think of that as like lots of introjects, you know, that critical kind of nature, like it can be like internalized guilt, internalized shame, whatever it is, you know, self-limiting beliefs that kind of hold you back from seeing the bigger picture. It could be like, you know, trusting the opinions of other people too much, um, you know, being lied to, as I was just kind of alluding to. And yeah, it affects you. And then when you add Mars in there, um, you know, that's about, you know, desire and the instincts and, you know, and the will to go forward. So that can have like unresolved anger issues, um, that you don't really know like where it's coming from. And in Cancer, sometimes it can be like passive aggressive, Mars and Cancer energy. With Mercury there, yes, it would make it easier to kind of speak your truth, I guess, in a sense, but still, yeah, like kind of hidden anger, and like kind of that passive toxicity of it. And it can come, you know, from past life situations where the will was kind of pushed back, you know, of what you really wanted to do. So it goes along with everything I've been saying, right? The Libra. And where the person's just kind of like compliant and then they feel kind of lost, right? Like being kind of like dominated, and having the soul's real intention pushed away. So really, I think also it goes perfectly with your North Node, because it's like an unmet need, I stumble on my words sometimes, an unmet need for independence, um, which played out in past lives, and you really need to have the relationships in this life where you're allowed to like be a pretty similar version of yourself within the relationships, right? Um, so it's like it can create this paradox in relationships where there's like the freedom to grow with another person is desired, obviously, you know, Venus in Taurus, right? Um, but then there's that kind of subconscious fear of entrapment, um, which can kind of like pull the person away from really feeling that fulfillment and having like stable relationships. So yeah. Um, so it all makes sense. It all connects, right? And you know, then we add like the Black Moon Lilith in Cancer, and we're like, all right, well, that can be, you know, that's like kind of if Chiron is your pain, right? Which is it's on your sun in Gemini, so it could be a lot of people with Chiron Geminis, they kind of internalized a message, even though you have Sun trine Moon, which usually means like a good relationship between the two parents, typically. Um, you know, it could have been with your, you know, the way you are in all these placements I've been talking about, um, feeling like you your thoughts and the way that you think and all that stuff was there's something like wrong about it, you know, like almost like not trusting. Go back to this a little bit, like yeah, like not trusting your thought process, you know, fear of communication with other people. Um, like usually it's like early schooling, some pain there. It's 10th house, right? So yeah, but it conjuncts your sun, so you know that's definitely making like a very sensitive and caring person, but there is, you know, an early childhood wound that has to be overcome. And a lot of times it's around self-expression, as I just said, right, in Gemini, and really speaking your truth, which connects perfectly with your Pluto in the third house, which is about really finding that deep power to really express your truth, regardless of how it makes other people feel. But it's also making one very, very compassionate and able to really, um, you know, care for others and feel others, you know, pains and hurts and all that. Um, so also like with the Vesta, it makes it so like your own well-being is really, really important. You know, it's really, really important for you to um have that healthy sense, you know, self-esteem, looking after yourself, like kind of in that daily kind of like sixth house kind of ritualistic way, you know, whether it's meditation, exercise, you know, spiritual, emotional, physical, all that stuff to really be on top of that. Um, so that all goes, you know, to show, you know, and then we talk about the 11th house, right? Mercury in Cancer there, how just the importance of finding like-minded people that you can really communicate about deep issues with, and really wanting to have, you know, be a part of groups with common ideals. And with the Mars there, it's just you know, gives that urge to kind of make friends and join groups that you know you can almost sometimes be like have like a lead, hold like kind of a leadership position, and it gives a big drive to kind of be a part of something, and really wanting to like fight for causes that you feel strongly about, right? And Mars and Cancer people also like you know, they care deeply about their family and those preserving those relationships and creating a family. You know, the mothering instinct is high, whether it's in, you know, it could be for friends and yeah. And Black Moon in Cancer, that one is interesting, right? Because it's like that is yourself, kind of how you beat yourself. And I think of it, 11th house, how friendships and groups, could have been difficult. And with Chiron the 10th, it's like, there's definitely this big need to kind of get over any kind of pain when it comes to like the external life, right? Um, like kind of it could be feelings of inadequacy in the outer world. There's Esme. And speaking of Cancer, there's a Cancer. And it's like imposter syndrome potential, right? So yeah, really like needing to feel like that's why it's like having a career is like some kind of healer is so, it can be so positive for you, right? So then we talk about Black Moon Lilith in Cancer in the 11th. I think of that as potential for that escapism, right? For that the like yes, one, like that passive aggression, not being able to feel like you can really communicate, like Libra energy, right? Like feeling like you can really communicate your needs in that way, which can lead to passive aggression and difficulty with self-assertion, which your North Node is asking you to be more assertive, right? And that goes, the way to do that is through that deep dive into your own personal darkness, right? 8th house. And then of course I said like studies of the occult, the esoteric can be so beneficial to helping that process. Now, also like Black Moon Lilith and Cancer can also be really related to, the crab crawling into the shell, when things get hard, kind of just dipping out and not wanting to deal with it, and when we have Mars opposite Neptune, it can really create this this split between the part of you that wants to be very, very how you say, assertive and move forward in life, and this part of you that wants to just dream and escape, right? So it's about like learning to like dive in, and it's in the 5th house, Neptune, so you can have these amazing downloads when you are being creative, right? And with potentially like, a goal could be, especially with Venus and Taurus in an exalted position, if you're a very creative person, if you're an artist, to make what you do for fun your work, right? Especially the part of fortune there in the 5th in Capricorn. I see that, when you're really working towards something that, you feel has like a deep meaning and really contributes to society, and you're also having fun with it, that's when you're at your best. And Neptune there, yeah, it's that balance between, and it goes back to that square, right? It's like a T square with the South Node. So it's like the healing of it is through your North Node in Aries, through just taking risks and taking chances, right? It's really like a huge part of your life path. And yeah, like 5th house Neptune people, super artistic, they can create through their intuition. And it's a beautiful placement. Beautiful placement. I've seen it in many artists, clients of mine who are artists. And very romantic too, very romantic. You got to watch out with the descendant in Pisces, and Juno in Pisces, and Ceres with Neptune, for that potential of rose-colored glasses in the initial phases of meeting someone, because that's what the 5th house is in the romantic sense, right? But you're really looking for kind of that deep spiritual union with someone, right? That's really what you're looking for, like, deep spiritual relationships. But you got to watch out for relationships that are kind of, seem so good at the start. So you got to really take it slowly, right? But the Virgo ascendant also sometimes can, you know, make it, or even the descendant in Pisces can make it so like no one's ever good enough, so you have to kind of learn that compromise, because you definitely want to be at one, you know in your relationships, and it's like the highest romantic energy, but it can lead to some disillusionment. But there's a deep desire to have like amazing marriage, relationship, all that. So, the Venus was the one that was quincunxing Uranus. And basically here, Uranus retrograde, you wanted to hear about the retrogrades, Neptune, Uranus, Saturn. I don't always speak of those, not because they're not important, but, how long have I even been talking? An hour. I'm trying to keep my readings under the 2-hour mark. But yeah, basically I'll get into those. But with, Uranus, in that quincunx with Venus. So Venus in Taurus is just like a real, you know, ability to kind of see the good in partnerships. It's really, really a great placement. Overall, in the ninth house, you might be attracted to people from foreign cultures who can help you kind of have like a better understanding of the world. And it's also really good for traveling in itself, and just for higher learning and wisdom acquisition, all that stuff. And yeah, like Venus and Taurus people, like they really want that reliability, and they really value that, right? So so it actually does help out what I was talking about before, because Venus and Taurus will take a more slow and steady approach to relationships, right? They want something solid and secure. Taurus is obviously about like the sense, like the touch and closeness and all that. So, that's definitely there. Now, let's see here. Let's see here. Let's see. So let me open something up real quick. So okay, so with the Venus and Uranus quincunx, which exact degree, it kind of goes with something I was saying before about like this it's this energy of like wanting that stability that I just talked about, but then having mixed feelings about your level of commitment in those relationships, right? So like wanting that like soulmate love and affection, but then like if you feel too smothered, like something like kind of like Libra, and Libra moon, Libra south node, like the Libra moon like desires, has a need for those relationships. Um, it can definitely make someone um like kind of want to back away if they feel like it's like too clingy, like if someone's taking away their independence, which is good, because you are here to be independent. um but then when you're free, so like let's say you're with someone and it's like things are good, whatever, blah blah blah, but it's like you feel like it's kind of like taking away from everything I talked about that you're trying to get to, you break up with them, and then after that, you miss that closeness, that Taurus, Venus and Taurus kind of closeness and tenderness and all that, right? So it can definitely cause like a lack of stability in love life. um and the partner that you might be with might find you to be unreliable and distant at times, and kind of this back and forth, right, between freedom and intimacy. A lot of times it's from like one or both the parents not being consistent, kind of like anxious attachment style type stuff in psychology. um but like if it wasn't the case, you did feel like you could really depend on them, then it's different. But if it wasn't that, you might have this like belief that you're not worthy of love or something along that, right? So it's really, once again, about finding that balance between that closeness, that intimacy, that rock kind of person, and that person gives you freedom, right? So the key is like when you do feel it's like having relationships where you have your own space, you know, and trying to have that like good, healthy release without causing wreckage in the relationship. So sometimes it could be like what I do with my Venus and Mars and Aquarius. I sleep in different rooms. I don't share a bedroom ever. You know, my girlfriend, like she has her bedroom. I have my bedroom. She has where she hangs out. I have where I hang out, and obviously we hang out together. But like, you know, we live together, and that's the only way I can be in a relationship. And yeah, I saw an article the other day. It was like a study that showed that like men. It was like a funny study. It was like men spend like I forget the amount of time like in the restroom, like hiding away, and just like show me like that's literally what I've been talking about in so many of my lives and so much of my content, non-astrology content, about like how like we as humans need space, and when we're so in the relationship, like if you are in a relationship, I'd highly suggest compatibility reading. It's one of my favorite readings I do. Um, but like basically there's a composite chart that's formed, right? And that's like basically the like two people's birth charts, that's their two identities, and the composite is when they come together, right? And the composite might not be that fun. Maybe it's a karmic one, or maybe it is really good. So but the key is to not always, if you're always with the person smothered, all that, you lose sight of your birth chart of who you are, and kind of like are become more like the composite. Like I even like with my composite is like we have so much Capricorn, like which is like obviously a very karmic, it's very Plutonian and Capricorn, right? So those aren't always the most fun energies, but they're the most transformational. So we definitely need space from each other. And she's way younger than me, so I think she slowly kind of recognizes like how important it is. But yeah, like that's one way to kind of and just like being really open and honest about your need for that freedom, you know, and that need for change and excitement, and just about how much commitment you can really handle, you know. But also you know, the tension of this aspect makes someone very creative, very charismatic, very exciting, like popular, like people never know what to expect, you know. So yeah, an open-minded individual in a relationship is big. Also, like when it comes to sex, right? I feel, you know, as a male astrologer, I feel weird talking about that, but you know, some level of like excitement, um, that's like maybe a little bit different than norm. Um, I'd even use the word like kind of kinky. Could be, you know, really really good and keep things interesting. That's kind of the need. Okay, so okay, let's see. Vertex in sixth in Uranus, I mean, or in Aquarius. So I think of Vertex as like kind of like, you know, your doorway to higher awareness. Basically, it's very obvious. Sixth house is about service. Um, so it's like, yeah, it's like how you can be of service to humanity through your work or through whatever it is really your doorway to higher awareness and higher consciousness. And sixth house, it's like when you can really have that routine that really feeds your soul, body, everything, like I was talking about before, that, you know, is amazing. And also sixth house is associated with like earth magic, right? Um, and being, yeah, really being of service to other people. So yeah, that's really important. Um, and the anti-vertex in the 12th can give like a measure of psychic ability, right? Something you have to develop, right? And that comes from you being of service to other people. So can really benefit other people with your Chiron on your sun. Okay. Now, also Vertex from a relationship standpoint, you know, in Aquarius, you'll come off, it's kind of like your second ascendant in relationships. So you'll come off as someone who's very like not necessarily distant, but like definitely freedom seeking in relationships, and someone who needs space and someone who's, you know, unconventional in their approach, like I was just talking about, right? Venus quincunx Uranus, it's a quincunx, which is tension, which is like 5 signs away, where they kind of don't really have anything to do with each other. But overall, you just have to figure some things out, basically, right? You just have to figure some things out, and when you do, and you're able to have those communications with your partner, things get a lot easier. It's difficult at the start, from my experience, and it takes like um a rare partner. um Not that it's like impossible to find, it is possible. And it could even be something like, having, Gemini, can be very, very open-minded to like, kind of alternative types of relationships, right? Um, but then the Venus in Taurus is like, nah, we're traditional. So that'd be interesting to talk about in the follow-up. Remind me to, like, basically everything in the follow-up, by the way, like, I don't think I mentioned this, like, um, what basically everyone does is that they get the reading plus follow-up, and then they add, did I already say this? I don't think I did. No, I said this to someone else. They add the current astrology. So instead of having just like a follow-up, it's your choice, but I give like a massive reduction to it. So instead of having just the 1 hour follow-up where we cover everything that we talked about here, it's like a puzzle we're forming together, mixing your lived experience. So most people watch it like multiple times, to really get the full essence of it. I know you know your chart better than my average client, but still, to really have all those talking points. And then the current astrology is, and you might be very, very good at this stuff, so you might not feel like you need it, but it's not just going over your slow return, your progressions, your transits, all that. It's really just like connecting the birth chart you get done once, with the year ahead, and just the life themes in general. It's not, I call it year ahead, but really, like, they always end up being like the word I always say is alignment. Usually it's 350, and I would do it for 250. So you just have to let me know about that, and then we set up a date and time the next few weeks. The soonest available time I have that you also have. It's not like a long wait like this one, because it's a live Zoom one. And yeah, we basically have that long session that usually is 3 hours long. First hour follow up, and then after that is the current astrology. So let me know about that. But yeah, moving forward, yeah. So the vertex, yeah, and Aquarius, yeah, definitely like someone who's unconventional and wants something more specific. Yeah. And I think I was just before I started, I was talking about, yeah, like kind of how it was difficult for me at first, but you know, once they start to see that, like if someone truly loves you and you truly love them, like you're gonna figure out, you're gonna make the compromises. And people think, because of how traditional everything is, like, oh, you have to be like this, oh, you have to be like that, just because, like, the people, parents or people, other people, were like that. But really, like, there's so much beauty that comes from a relationship, like, that you're, like, not, like, there's no boringness, like, there's like a renewal. Like, maybe you need to take time away, maybe you need to, like, be consciously be like, okay, like, we need to spend like 5 days away from each other, or, like, where there's not like a negative vibe around it, just to kind of refurbish and, like, kind of like reset the relationship. Like, I've seen that work wonders. And I think in time, my girlfriend's kind of, she doesn't like it, she's a Scorpio, but she I think she in her soul knows that it's done very good things for her to be able to miss me to be able to miss her. So yeah, but that's usually like, that was like when I was in America and she's here, different times and all that, whatever. So yeah, that's that. So Ceres also, it's like kind of like the second moon, um, and but not as important. So in Capricorn, it's like how you nurture yourself and how others nurture you. How you like to be nurtured. And that's just like about, like, like how you like to, when you achieve your ambitions and you feel like you're really, like, you know, doing something that's for the greater good. And really like when you're able to like teach others about self-discipline and how to achieve their goals. So it goes with the Chiron, you know, the teacher, the healer. And you know, in terms of like how you nurture yourself, it's like fifth house is about that inner child, that artistic, that creative purpose. That Libra moon, high Libra moon is like a creator, you know. It's like the amount of singers and artists that have Libra moons. It's like it's a lot of them, you know. Um, a lot of like real creative have that. So then aside from that, let's think here. Um, hmm. Another thing with Sirius and Capricorn people is that they can tend to like look after, like it kind of goes like the Libra energy, South Node, like they can tend to like look after others, like way more, like there's like an imbalance between how much they look after others compared to themselves. So it's important to have that balance. All right. Palace, that's just, we went over everything. So let's see what stars are going on. See what stars are popping. Oh, and Saturn, duh, and Uranus in the fourth. Okay, so these two in the fourth, Uranus in the fourth, you know, in the retrogrades, yeah. Um, that's usually like a very unconventional home life. Maybe you moved around a lot as a kid, and it just makes someone. And it's further away from your IC, so it's like just someone who wants to like yeah change things up a lot, maybe move a lot, unusual living situations, an unconventional home life, right? So yeah, sudden changes can come in that. And then there's a Saturn, which is a little bit closer to the IC, and you know that Saturn in the fourth house is really about like how home early on may have not been that supportive to your highest goals. There could have been like some real restrictions that came from some of the, you know, maybe unconscious messaging that you got from parents or your early environment, which shows with the Chiron placement and some of the other stuff I talked about. So, you know, really like the need to follow that Aries North node and break out of that is once again highlighted, right? Um, yeah, just like I think of like Saturn fourth house people as like just not feeling like they were like really supported when they were younger, you know, um, and not feeling like they really got that firm footing in life. But then like they really want to build like a solid foundation based on their own hard work later on and create like the home life that maybe they didn't have growing up, especially with that Mars in Cancer, you know, later on. So okay. Um so karma, so you know I look at everything karmically, right? Um from a karmic perspective. So when we talk about Saturn retrograde, right? Um it's a planet of self-discipline. Um so until one like really accepts that, um it's kind of like the energy like being your own metaphoric father. There can be those setbacks, those limitations, all that stuff, right? So a lot of people talk about Saturn retrograde as like kind of a also Pluto retrograde to a sense, but it's kind of like a redoing of a lifetime. It's like your second chance. It's incarnations like your second chance to get something right, you know? So a lot of times people who had that feel like they're dealing with the burden of two lifetimes at once, right? There can be lots of like inner doubts around self-worth and over like your ability to overcome like I always call them the boulders in the path that Saturn sets in your path, right? Just difficulties, right? But really the good news is that your soul knows that you have achieved that spiritual maturity required to redo um, you know, to successfully redo, you know, this lifetime. But yeah, so it's all about discipline and, you know, being rewarded with enormous amounts of wisdom. But you know, Saturn, it's comfortable in retrograde. So you know, when you flow with it, you develop that kind of capacity to tap into all your past life wisdom and talents. So it's definitely a sign of an old soul on a spiritual path who's really trying to like perfect what they learned, you know? So it's like there can be extra weight, feeling of extra weight, but a real serious attitude to really get it right this time around, right? And then there was Uranus. Those are the two, right? And Pluto, yeah, Pluto also. So I have Pluto, that's the only one I have. So Uranus, that comes from like difficulty, and this goes with what I've been saying, like in expressing your inner individuality, kind of feeling held back. Um, so like it's really about like digging deep and like rediscovering like that individualism, um, and lots of like responsibility towards personal growth. So yeah, it's just like pushing you to be more original, obviously, and you know, it's a free spirit, and it goes with everything I was saying about like the kind of romantic energy, right? Um, so you know, karmically, it can also relate, hey, Esme, to you know, to family, societal difficulties, and just how you can like be your own individual. Um, and once again, you know, with relationships, it's that whole, you know, changeability. Um, so yeah, kind of like once again, like the mental and the emotional bodies having that struggle with each other. You know, the brain and the emotion slash intuition. Feeling like you need to do one thing while also feeling you need to do another. How do you balance it? Yeah. So then with Pluto, um, so that one's very interesting because it really um it makes like all that transformative energy kind of even more, it kind of buries it even more deeply into the subconscious, I guess you could say. So sometimes like you have like this great illumination, but you don't know how to put words to it. Like I definitely experienced that early on, like feeling like not being able to put words to what I was experiencing and the thoughts I was having when I was younger. So it can be really difficult, honestly. Um, yeah. And also, you know, it indicates like a carryover of psychic powers from previous lifetimes. So but these are to be used in constructive ways only. And it really can make one feel like the struggle that humanity is going through. Like they can really feel that within themselves, and I can definitely relate to that, right? Um, and really feeling like you need to like lift yourself up consciously in terms of awareness so that you can help others. Um, and it's so Pluto is really about the collective. So the retrograde is like a karmic debt that's owed to humanity, right? And it's in Scorpio, obviously. Um, so yeah, it's really about like kind of paying your dues to humanity in a selfless way, right? But like tremendous spiritual growth is possible with Pluto retrograde. And you can really like have the ability to like through doing stuff like this, like rising above your karma, and yeah, it's like you know, it's interesting. It's like learning to like live in this world while also remaining like kind of separate from it, you know what I mean? And Yeah, and then you have Neptune, and it's similar with Neptune. You have Neptune also retrograde, right? So you have a lot of retrogrades. So with the Neptune one, um, Neptune, Neptune retrograde. So that, because it's square the nodes, it just gives one that deep desire to kind of, unveil the real truth. Basically, it goes with what I was saying before, right? Gives that intuitive awareness, but like all these things have to be unlocked, so things like astrology can be very, very, very powerful, right? So it's really important to like to listen, which Gemini sometimes can have difficult doing, but that's obviously not like the dominant part of your chart. And yeah, like it gives someone the ability to like really achieve like a very advanced stage of spiritual evolution. But like with all the retrogrades, like I think it's after the Saturn return though, and it's gifts that like you have to unlock them yourself. You know what I mean? Because like people who have lots of retrograde planets, I've observed this like firsthand. Like my brother, he has every single thing at retrograde. Like I feel like it can be like too much, and there can be like a almost like a shutdown. And with the Black Moon Lilith in Cancer, opposite Neptune, there can be that shutdown that happens, and that leads to just like, okay, I just want to like be a loner. I just want to be like alone. So yeah, lots of like Pluto, lots of spiritual growth is lots of potential for that. Really being in touch with the cosmos, and like I said, like they're similar, like living in the world, but also having one foot in the material world, one foot in the esoteric spiritual world, and it goes also with like surrounding yourself with the right kinds of people who believe that anything is possible. So I'm really looking forward to our follow up because I think we're gonna talk about a lot of things. I have a really good feeling about it. Um, yeah. And another big thing, last thing I'll say about Neptune retrograde is that people who have that sometimes they can really doubt their intuitions. Um, so it's like this process, especially with the Gemini Chiron, to really learn to trust your intuition, right? So yeah, was that all the retros? Lots of retros. And the nodes are always retro, in case you didn't know. Yeah. Okay. And I really look at like, okay, let's see here. Let's open up the stars. Let's see what the stars, the fixed stars. And please say, let's see time wise, how am I doing? 1 hour 30. Okay. I'm getting better. I'm getting better. I'm getting better. Even though I feel like I don't know. I just been like trying to develop strategies to like still say everything I need to say, but in a way it doesn't take 2 hours plus. But I guess I'm kind of close on that. Okay, so in terms of asteroids, wow, look at you. Oh, never mind. Sorry, I saw the numbers wrong. Um, well, you have Zosma and Psyche on your ascendant. Zosma is closer. So Zosma so this is something I learned for my studies in Babylonian astrology. It is one of the truth seeker stars, right? Not a lot of people know that. Zosma, Hydra, Nebula. So that's why like you see a lot of Virgos who are super spiritual because they might have like Nebula at 21 degrees, Zosma at 11. So your ascendant's at 12. So it's right there. Now another thing you're gonna love to hear is that Psyche is, the asteroid Psyche, so it's 3 degrees, that's still fair. Psyche rising, especially with a Virgo rising, will keep someone having youthful looks as long as they take care of themselves for a long time. Which is obviously amazing. And I have so many case studies of that. I know an astrologer, she's from LA. You can literally check her out if you want. Her IG is RIS Lauren, RIS Lauren, and she literally looks like she's 22 or 23, and like she legit gets like casted because she's like an actress too, she's like Hollywood and stuff, as roles like 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 Euphoria, like she's not in Euphoria, but like that kind of like casted as like really really young roles, but she's like older and stuff. She's like I forget how old she's, like 38 or 40, something like that. So That's interesting. So to have that is very good. Um, 1 second. Okay, so let's see. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, overall, very nice. Truth seeker, so it makes sense, the Virgo. So um let me go around. Okay. So your moon is close to Spica, but like kind of like just out of range, I would say. Um, but Spica is such a powerful star that I would say that I give it to you. That's like one of the best stars in all of astrology. It is just very, very lucky, very refined. I think of it as like a sparkly, like the best, it's the best place you can be in Libra. Um, it's very good for like success and love of the arts and just like taste. I don't know. I always think of it as it's just like it can be a little bit self-indulgent, but I don't know. So but yeah, it is a little bit far. But the moon there can actually give someone lots of gains through inventions, and it's very good for success and wealth, really. Um, so yeah, especially from from wealth. It says wealth and honor from Mercury, Venus, or Jupiter people, and you are a Mercury person. So who knows? Maybe especially with that palace, you dig deep and you discover something. Who knows? Okay, none over here. Centauri is on the IC. I don't even know. I can't think of what that would be. But it is a royal star. It's more militant, so maybe it can, speak of coming from like a very like prestigious um upbringing. But to be honest, like I don't IC isn't as powerful, and I don't know what Antares IC is. Antares MC or ascendant or moon or sun or Venus or any of that. I can tell you Mars, but like I see it's still a royal star that's on an angle. So it's still very, very, still affecting you in very tangible ways. And Taurus is kind of like the king of the underworld. Um, so yeah, but it can also like be like tough beginnings in life. So but that gives you like that real manifestation for success later on. Uranus Galactic Center, I mean, just the ability to really connect to like the wholeness of the universe. Beautiful. Um, Vega on part of fortune, that's just like very, very good for success and money. Um, White Moon Selena on the vertex. I mean, just like lots of fate when it comes to you and you expressing your best self, when it comes to you being of service and giving back to humanity. Um, what's this? Aphrodite on the descendants. So Aphrodite is beauty. Um, so to have that on an angle, even though it's a descendant, you could look at that two ways. You could look at it as like you attracting like a very like I don't want to say a feminine man, but how there's like people like say like, oh, that man is beautiful. It could be that, but also it's on the descendant, so it could be like it's Aphrodite. I always say lust is the asteroid of like sexiness and just like very sexy, and hot. And Aphrodite is like that kind of princess beauty. So nice. Um, so then we have to stare in my computer to see what this one is. Algol on Venus. Okay, now we're talking. There's so many in Gemini. Oh, look at you, Aldebaran on the midheaven, and Rigel on the sun. Wow. And then Nemesis on the Mars. So definitely like I'll start with the last one. Like there can be like a level of like of people in your friend group. You really have to be careful with your friend group. With Black Moon Lilith there, Nemesis conjunct Mars, like and Mars even 11th, like there can be like it's really important that you align yourself with the right people. And like Mars opposite Neptune, it can kind of make you prone to like trusting people you shouldn't trust. So watch out for that. And then even is that Angel or Union? So yeah, Union also there. So that's like you're gonna, that's gonna play a massive role. Relationships play a massive role. You can actually create lots of wealth through your healing if you do that for business. Um, Regel, so like there's tons of wealth indicators here, right? So Regel in astrology, right? So we have Regel, we have Aldebaran, and we have what was the other one? Algol. So a lot of really interesting ones, right? Really big time fixed stars. Big time fixed stars, especially Aldebaran. That's like one, the best, if not I'd say the two best are Regulus and Aldebaran. Fomalhaut's great, Spica's great, and Antares is obviously very, very powerful, but sometimes very misunderstood. Uh, yeah. So let me think first. Yeah. Shank, trying to start with. So okay, so Aldebaran midheaven basically like it's just it's outstanding for wealth. It literally like it gives really good fortune with women, and just like with marriage in general. Like so like a big potential for like marrying someone that has means or you know Um, and a lot of Aldebaran people, they enter life with, like so you have Antares on the IC. So I'd be interested to hear. I make sure you remind me to talk about this because like a lot of people like they come into like life with like good families and have like success in that way, but like in this case it could just be like really getting lucky with marriage and stuff and just success in your occupation, what you do for a living, right? And Rigel, having that on your sun, like smack on your sun, um, that's another really great one for honors and riches and happiness and all that and glory, right? So, on the sun, it makes someone like very bold and courageous. But there can be enemies, right? So you have to watch out for people being jealous of you. And that's another thing with Black Moon Lilith, which I forgot to mention in the 11th house. Another thing about that I learned recently, well, semi-recently about Black Moon Lilith is that whatever house it's in is where people can be jealous of you. So people can be jealous of you within your own friend group, or just if you're kind of like like just with respect to your friends or with respect to your like larger than life, like your goal, your big dreams and goals. So it's like good to keep those a little bit hidden. Um, so another thing with Rigel and the sun is there can be like a quick rise in life, um, and a lot of luck, especially in 10th house, sun, right? But then there can be like this continuous battle to kind of retain that position. Um, so it's really about like keeping concentrated, right? It's like there's people who I've seen with this who they rise up fast and then they get complacent because you do have that Jupiter opposition, right, with the moon, and then they lose it all. So if not cautious, um, a fall from success can come. And finally, Algol. Algol is, everyone's scared of Algol. It's the Medusa, right? But having it with Venus is is a little bit different, right? Because Venus is a very beautiful planet. Um, Medusa's head. Um, but overall, um, I think of Algol, like I have it on my midheaven, right? So it's one of those stars where it's like it can get really ugly, really, really animalistic. Um, but it's also like very esoteric and very, very like witchy, so it's kind of like a give or take in that sense. So yeah, I would really worry about it. I'd say like it can give a tendency to lying sometimes. But also very, very good for like being like you know, lots of intelligence and boldness. So yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about that. If it was Mars on Algol, then I'd be like, watch out. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about about that one, and I would think of it more as like just like to not seek revenge. That's kind of the thing when you have two of the royal stars, and Spica close by, and then Rigel, like all these amazing stars, and then even like just everywhere, like on everything. I think like the key when you have that much power, and I have Regulus, right? So like I know about this stuff, right? It's to not like there will be situations, especially with what I said about like the friend stuff, where you'll want revenge, and the key is to not seek that out. That's it. Thank you so much. I did 1 hour like 45, so whatever. I really did hold a special place for your reading for some reason. I waited a little bit to do it. I wanted to be like really not just focused. I don't know. I wrote down notes like she knows a bunch about astrology, and then I listened to voice messages and I was like, oh wait, this isn't like as intimidating as I got like not that you don't know about astrology, I think you do, but I think I kind of like not scared myself, but like I was like gotta do these more chill ones first. So anyways, thank you so much and talk soon. Let me know about the current reading. All right. Ciao.